Okay. The purpose of this one, uh, this slideshow, is for those of you who haven't read your camera manual and are afraid to press the menu button. Um, it's primarily for small point and shoot cameras to give you some idea of where some of the controls are. But those of you with the fancier cameras, and I don't know who you are, but you do, um, you may find a little something useful here. Um, when you look through the viewfinder or through the back screen in the case of this camera, first thing you see is these little brackets, and that tells you where to put what you want to focus on. Next thing we'll see up here in the upper left is what mode you're photographing in, and I'll talk about modes here in just a second. This shows that the flash is turned off. I recommend that you turn the flash off and turn it on only when you need it, and it's usually done through the menu. And over here we see both the battery charge and the number of photographs, and that's quite a few. Today's cameras have these huge cards and take a lot of pictures. Um, Next thing is about focus lock. You press the shutter release button down halfway, wait for some kind of indication. It's either a beep or sometimes a light comes on. Read your manual, find out, and then you compose. So, take a picture of this flower. I would put the flower in between the brackets, press the button, wait for it to beep or indicate that it is in focus, and then recompose and take the picture. But it locks focus as long as I don't let go of that button on whatever I focused on. So now I can have this flower off center, which is possibly a more interesting composition, and still keep it in focus because of focus lock. This is the sort of lame mode menu on this particular camera. You should by now, or maybe in just a little bit, have read the website about digital cameras, digital photography, and understand the function of aperture and shutter, and in particular how aperture controls depth of field. You do not have an adjustable aperture that is manually adjustable like somebody with an SLR style digital camera would. You do have a landscape mode and a portrait mode. Landscape mode basically is telling this camera, give me the smallest possible aperture, which will yield the greatest depth of field or depth of focus that is possible given the speed I have set the camera to and the amount of light available. Portrait mode does just the opposite. Gives me a very large aperture, shallow depth of field, although you will discover that most of these inexpensive point and shoot cameras have really tiny chips and a wide angle lens sitting in front of them that make a shallow depth of field almost impossible to achieve. Here is the flash mode, and you can see I have it turned off. And I'm also shooting the largest picture that my camera will let me shoot. I know if I set it lower I get to take all of these pictures, but you want to get in the habit of shooting the most recorded pixels and best quality that you can possibly get. It's easier to downsample a photograph if you want to email it to somebody, but upsampling, making the thing bigger, is pretty hard. And it's not usually that successful. There's usually two settings, quality and then resolution. And no camera manufacturer calls them the same thing, lucky us. But make sure both of these are set to the maximum size. There's also a white balance. What this is it balances or gives you pleasing color in a variety of different lighting situations. Auto, what we have here, is good most of the time. The next one is open sunlight, followed by my subjects is in open shade. And of course, we'll run through the next one is incandescent, indoor, the little GE light bulbs. This is fluorescent. And last but not least is a custom white balance. If you have this option, read the manual, because no two cameras do this the same way. I've had two Nikons recently, and neither one of them work the same. White balance, you need the book for a custom white balance. Digital zoom, turn it off. Your reading talks about why digital zoom is a bad thing. Believe what you read. Turn it off. It's cropping, and it's going to make your picture quality really bad. Only use the optical zoom. And last but not least, at least I think this is last but not least, has to do with over and under exposure. If you need to over or underexpose, or if you find that your pictures are kind of thin and washed out, they're being overexposed, or if they're really dark, they're underexposed, you can go in and manually increase over and under exposure. And unfortunately, on the little point and shoot cameras, this is fairly clumsy, can't be done really quick because it's in the menu. Yeah, okay. This is last but not least. These cards occasionally get funky, or you get some hidden files on them, and you have a 4 gig card that doesn't have any pictures on it, and it says it has, room for 4 pictures. It's time to get in here to the menu and reformat the card. It will, if it's possible, put it into a like new condition, ready to take some more pictures. Do not leave your pictures on the card forever without putting them on a computer. Get them off the card as soon as possible. If you're shooting things that are really important, sometimes it's not a bad idea to have 2 cards. Yeah, that's it. It's brief, but this will hopefully get over any fears you might have about pressing the dreaded menu button and help you give you a little control over your camera.